To understand Peter Cushing, actor and gentle human being, you must above all understand his relationship with the woman he married.
She was just the most remarkable person, most unselfish, clever, understanding, any adjective you like. Quite extraordinary person. Very, very good actress, and she adored the profession, but she realized that if we both stuck to it, we'd be parted, and we didn't want that. It was a most extraordinary relationship because it wasn't as though, it wasn't the normal sort of falling head over heels in love. It was exactly as though we were picking up from where we'd left off in some other age. Quite extraordinary.
Helen Cushing has been dead these 19 years, but Peter still lives on the North Kent coast in the house they shared for 34 years. Painting, writing, occasionally acting, observing and recording the natural order of things.
I'm very fond of nature. I think it tells us a great deal about life in general. See, I think this 70 year and 10, which we're all given, is just a jolly good dress rehearsal for what's to come. And I think people tend to complicate their beliefs in and their religion. And I think it's much more simple than I think people make out. Because I think it's been shown simply, the seasons, when you think in the spring everything comes to life, in the summer it flourishes, comes to fruition, as indeed it does in the autumn, but things begin to get a little tired.
And in the winter?
Everything dies. But what happens again next spring? It all comes to life again. And I think that's a simple way that God has shown us that don't worry about what happens to you down here, just learn how to behave so that when you come wherever I am, you'll find you've learnt a great deal and you'll be able to behave yourself as you should have done in your proper life.
Peter was born into a comfortably middle-class family in Surrey. Father, a quantity surveyor, mother, a powerful influence, and brother David, the academically gifted child.
I was hopeless as far as anything to do with school was concerned, except playing rugby, which I adored, and all sport, which I adored, and doing the school play and doing a bit of painting. They were the only thing I was any good at.
Your parents decided to send you away to boarding school?
Yes, to, I've always been very homesick. And they sent me to Shoreham Grammar School. And I only lasted for one term. I just couldn't take it. I remember travelling down in the train from Purley, where we lived, down to Sussex. And every time the train stopped, I said, no, it's not the station, is it? And poor mother was in such a state, she said to Father, I don't think we can send the boy. And he said, he'll get over it, Nellie. You know, Dad was trying to make a man of his son. But I couldn't take it.
Your father was busy trying to make you a man. Your mother had taken a rather odd decision about your mode of dress as a child, if I remember.
Yes, and dear Mum had always longed to have a daughter. She'd had my brother David 3 years before I arrived on the scene. So she dressed me up as a little girl, and I had long curls, very, very blonde I was, very blonde. Dressed me in frocks. And one day I had wandered off and got lost, and Father rang up the police station and said, have you found a little boy? And the duty sergeant said, oh, and I was so afraid we haven't found a little girl. And Father sort of said, very shy chap he was, he said, would you make sure it's a little girl? So the penny dropped the other. He said, oh yes, hold on, sir, hold on, I'll do that. So Dad waited. He came back and said, you're quite right, sir, it is a little chap. And that was me. I wandered off in my frock, you know, and I was found paddling in a puddle somewhere. But Father thought, well, that's enough of that, so he gave me a very masculine haircut and dressed me in shorts and a sailor suit.
Peter's relationship with his mother was loving but complex. She had a curious way of punishing her children, and she terrified Peter by feigning death.
It was a lovely musical comedy called The Maid of the Mountains, in which there was a song, whatever before, I still recall that sunlit mountainside. I wouldn't dare sing it to you. It was beautiful. And Mother used to put her own words to it. Like say, she would sing, I'm going away, 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 across the ocean blue. And I would call out, oh, don't go away, Mother, don't go away. I won't be naughty anymore. And of course, I was naughty. So when I was naughty for the second time, she would lie back with her eyes closed and pretend to be dead. And this worried me inordinately. I became pathological about it. So I approached my brother, and he said, kick her. He said, well, I couldn't bring myself to do that. So I said, you're 3 years older than me, and bigger. No, I can't do that. So he said, well, I said, oh, pinch her, he said. She's not dead. So, but she looks it, I said, and he said, well, don't worry. But he did, it worried me. And so then the next time she did it, I happened to be eating, which was not unusual. I had appetite like a horse. Great slab of bread and butter and marmalade, you know. And there was Mother, prone, dead, gone. So I crept up to the corpse with this piece of bread and butter and marmalade, went oink on her face. You know, it was the
Custard pie.
Custard pie act, wasn't it? And the corpse came to life and never died again.
Did that affect your attitude to death?
It worried me. Death worried me enormously, because I mean, when you're a child, what was I, 3, 4, something like that, it's terrifying. You don't know what life's all about, let alone death. But when your mother looks as though she's gone, I mean, the whole world has collapsed, hasn't it? I mean, you wanted to get back in the womb immediately, and it's gone. Terrifying. So it's quite wrong psychology. But I did get over that eventually through someone much wiser and just as lovely.
As a child, you were also afraid of the dark, I think.
That was because the only time I can remember dear Dad being very, very cry, I must have done something dreadful, I can't think what it was. And he locked me in the cellar. In those days, nearly all old Victorian houses had cellars. Very dark. Got me in the mood for horror films, I should think. But I was absolutely terrified of this place, freaking out, you know, open the door, give me a knife, let me kill myself going on. Highly dramatic stuff. When I got a little older, I thought there's only one way to conquer this, and this is to attack it. And I used to go for these walks through little alleyways of trees with all the owls hooting and everything, to get used to the dark, and I began to love it, adored it. And that broke the spell, but it took a long time. I must have been 18, 19, before I wasn't afraid of the dark.
Did that experience teach you to rely upon yourself? I mean, did it turn you into something of a loner?
Very much a loner, but I was always very unsure of myself, frightfully unsure, which is the worst thing an actor can be. You know, you've got to have a bit of ego and great confidence. I knew instinctively that I'd been given gifts, like we've all been given gifts. And I wanted to use them to the best of my ability, but I was dead scared, you know, frightened to death about it. There's a great difference between solitude and loneliness. Solitude I love. Loneliness I don't. I don't think anyone does.
The many masks of the successful and confident actor have disguised the chronic shyness and insecurity which were the legacy of his childhood. During his early career, the agonies of self-doubt were endured alone. Then, during World War II, life was transformed. At the time, he was doing his bit for Ensa in Noel Coward's Private Lives.
It had been on tour with an actor, with Sonia Dresdel playing the Gertrude Lawrence part, but the actor had been called up and they needed someone very quickly to take over. And I got that part, and I had to learn the part within 4 days and play it, which I did. And Sonia had been in the play for about over a year, and after another 6 months, she really was desperately tired. It was very, very tiring, you know, that continue packing and travelling all over the country. And they never seemed to quite work it out. I mean, we'd go up to Scotland and suddenly come down to Devon and then go back to Scotland. Instead we're doing all Scotland. So this enormous amount of... And of course during the war travel was dreadful. So I really need the constitution of several oxen to withstand it. And poor Sonia did have to have a rest. And so another lady had to be found to take her place.
And her name?
Helen Beck, that was, and became Helen Cushing. And of course that's when all the things you asked me earlier about my insecurity, my shyness, my not sure of myself, life, death, everything was changed, because she knew exactly where my troubles lay and exactly what to do about them. And if it hadn't been for her, I certainly wouldn't be here physically, entirely due to Helen. Bless her.
Can you tell me about Helen?
She really did know me better than I knew myself. And she was able to I mean, perhaps it's not it's only one that just comes to me, that her psychology was so good. Because at one point in my career, it's not conceit, but actors do have to look pretty good, you know. And I had awful trouble with some abscesses in my top palate, and the only way during the war the dentist could get rid of these abscesses was to lug out 3 perfectly good teeth, front ones. Well, for anyone it's pretty bad, but for an actor, I mean, it's coitance, isn't it? Mm. So that was done, and I had a plate fitted in, and Helen knew it distressed me greatly. So she said, look, dear, if you'd lost those 3 teeth playing rugger for England, you'd be very proud of it, wouldn't you? I said, good Lord, yes, of course I would, especially if I'd scored the winning try. What psychology, eh? Marvellous, marvellous. If most people were honest, really honest, they would admit that they can resist anything except temptation. I don't know who said it. It's pretty profound, I think, because it says it all, really, doesn't it? Of course, I have been tempted. We have all been tempted. And I have erred, regrettably, very much regret. Even there, Helen understood and put me right about it.
You were married in 1943, I think.
Yes, yes.
You still have the wedding ring, I think, do you not?
Yeah, I have. Oh, you dear fellow. Oh, you have been. There it is. Now, we were broke. And Helen found that for 9 old shillings. I don't know what that'd be in today's money. Isn't that lovely? So that's her ring. This she bought me fairly recently, because we obviously had a bit more money then. And this was my... I can't wear watches on my wrist, too much electricity or something. And she bought me that, old as me. Isn't that lovely? She bought that. She can stand up, little watch. Bought that for me when we were filming in Madrid in the Black Night. Because they used to give you a great deal of money for expenses, but as Helen and I didn't drink, our expenses weren't very much. So she bought me that. So it's rather lovely, isn't it, to have the watch and the chain and the ring, all as little talismans.
You lost her in 1917.
No, I didn't lose her, oh, darling. She's just elsewhere. Yeah, 71. It took me 13 years to surface after that.
13 years?
I just accepted. I knew the only way to combat it was to just work and work and work and work. So I accepted anything that was offered. People were very good. I'm sure the business really rallied round and made jobs for me, you know, but it was the only, and I went all over the world. And I think that saved my reason. Mm-hmm.
Your reason?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, I was contemplating everything. I knew I'd never have the courage to do it, but you can't have had the experience and the love of a person such as Helen, and then suddenly it's not there anymore. It's more than 3/4 of your own self taken from you. So you either buckle under and say that's it and give up, or you have to go on and run the race before you, which is set before you. Again, you come to this path, you know, you've got to do it. You've got to face up to these things, but you've got to find a way to do it. And I thought the only way to do it, as I say, was to just work. And it paid off. It paid off. But I didn't go out socially. I smoked a great deal. I've never drunk, so I didn't turn to that, fortunately.
She left you a letter
Oh, yeah.
giving you quite clear instructions. Do you remember what she said?
Yes, indeed. Do not pine for me, my beloved Peter, because that will cause unrest. Do not be hasty to leave this world, because you will not go until you have lived the life you have been given. And remember, we will meet again when the time is right. That is my promise. Pretty good words there, isn't it?
Where did you find that letter?
Well, when dear Helen just left this world, I went out onto the beach. It got a little mad, I think. You know. But there was a terrific storm blowing, no rain, but tremendous winds, and the sea was pounding in, and all the gulls were reeling around, squawking. And I sort of looked up to heaven and started singing "Happy Birthday to You" for some extraordinary reason. And then a piece of paper blew along, wrapped itself around my legs, and I've always been a bit of a tidy chap, so I pulled it off and shoved it in my pocket without really thinking. And I went indoors and started rushing up and down the stairs, hoping to induce, in a vain attempt to induce a heart attack, so that I could join Helen there and then. Didn't work. Of course, it did the heart a lot of good, that sort of exercise. And then, as I told you, I smoked, and I went to my pocket to get this packet of fags and pulled up this bit of paper. And the first thing that caught my eyes was on the personal column of the Daily Telegraph. They always have a little tract from the Bible, and this one said, in fact, I've kept it. I'll have to read it, because your brain's not what it was. And it says, "Ye now therefore have sorrow, but I will see you again, and your heart shall rejoice, and your joy no man taketh from you." That's John 16, verse 22. Now, what an extraordinary, beyond a coincidence for that to happen at that time.
The last words that Helen said to you intrigued me, and I don't mean to be intrusive, but she said, "God bless you, you will save me."
That has always been on my mind. I can't quite... that I've... One of my little notes to ask her, what did you mean by that? Because I mean, to me, to save her, I would get her well, and she'd be there, you know, later the day. No, that one has foxed me. That one has foxed me all. I did ask a clergyman of that once. And his reply was, it was one that it helped me so little. I thought the thing to do is forget that entirely. And I can't even remember what it was, but it was so, it wasn't right. It wasn't right. That's what I find strange enough. I hope we're not being disloyal. But the one, when you really need help from the church, in my experience, I went to several. I never got it. They seem to fear talking about the afterlife and what they believe in. They won't talk about it.
About 8 years ago, you were diagnosed as having cancer. This must have been, and this is an understatement, this must have been something of a shock.
No, it wasn't really. And I'm not sort of being, oh, what a brave boy am I. No, I accepted it completely because I accept that this might have been the end of the line. It didn't worry me at all because I thought, well, this is lovely. This is, it's been a long time, 1971 to, I think it was about 1984, 5 that I had this thing. There I am, there I shall be with Helen at last. Her promise will have come true. But it always worries me for those left behind. They're the people who really suffer. I mean, whether you believe or not about what happens when you leave this world, you can't pass that on to others on this earth because you're not allowed to. But it's those left behind. I mean, I know for, you know, what I went through. So many other people have gone through. It's terrifying, the most terrifying thing to lose a partner of that kind. Far worse, I think, than really losing one of your own blood. I mean, that's bad enough. But when you've seen your mother, and well, no, first my father, and then my mother, and then my brother, and then my sister-in-law, and then my wife, you begin to wonder when your turn's coming, have they forgotten you? Up there, or down there, or just alongside. It's not very far, it's just a step away, really, where we go. So, no, it didn't worry me a bit.
Do you have a vision of heaven?
Yes, Helen will be there. That's enough for me. No, I think, no, I remember one has daydreams. I think it's pretty impossible, but I reckon it's the places you love yourself. That'll be yours. You see, don't forget, it's in my father's house there are many mansions. And I think my mansion will be a bit of English countryside. If I should die, I think only this of me, that there's some corner of a foreign field that is forever England. That'll be it. Could Helen, of course. I wouldn't mind if it's the Sahara Desert so long as Helen's there, but I would prefer Devon or Cornwall or Kent.
Nowadays, Peter Cushing's creative energy is largely devoted to painting the Kent countryside, particularly around Whitstable and Faversham, that he and Helen loved so much.
I've always loved colour, and I always loved the Impressionists. But you see, to be able to paint like an Impressionist, you've got to be able to put in first every detail, every leaf, then learn what to eliminate, what to leave out. And that is a great art, I think, in all art, is what to leave out. In writing, in acting, in practically everything. When I got too frustrated with my painting, I just couldn't bring off what I was after, I turned to making models. When again we were slowly broke for presents at Christmas or birthdays, I would paint with watercolour on bits of silk, which Helen rescued from Russia when they had to flee the revolution in 1917. Or I'd make her she smoked, bless her, she shouldn't have done. She had emphysema, but she did. I made her a cigarette box and a little bracelet and things. So they gave me more satisfaction because they at least came off.
Was there a message in those scarves for Helen?
Yes, my love.